I worked 16-hour days on film sets under the Brooklyn Bridge in -20 weather, and that wasn't as hard as being a parent.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Teen Talks. Today we have another very special guest, another one of our friends from GYLS, from the Global Youth Leadership Summit. She is a holistic health counselor. She is a mindset and energy coach. She is a Reiki Master. She's also a mother of three wonderful kids. And yeah, we're so excited to have her on. Please welcome Moni.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I'm super excited. It's my first ever live podcast invitation where I'm actually seen while I'm talking. So that's interesting. I have to tell you, I was debating whether I should curl my hair. So I curled just the front. You don't want to see the back. It's a mess. It's pretty awful. And I am not wearing pants. So just a full disclosure here. But that's the beauty of Zoom. We can have fun with this. And luckily, you don't have to see the things that are supposed to stay unseen. So I'm super excited to be with you guys.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
Yes.
we are so excited to have you here. And I got to be co-captains, well, not co-captains with you, but at GYLS, we were in the same dorm pod or whatever you call that, and right next door to each other. So it was really fun to see huge energy from you. And then the way you connect with the kids, it was beautiful to watch. And you just bring so much to GYLS your first year, and the kids that are there, and just the people that all of us volunteers, you kind of lift everybody up with your energy, which is amazing. So
Thank you.
for
Thank you so much for saying that. I mean, I do this professionally, so I better know what the heck I'm doing, right?
that.
As an energy coach, I better know how to lift your energy and your vibration. Otherwise, I'm not really doing my job. So it took me years to get there. You know, it definitely is it's a process and it's a practice like everything else in life. So you make a conscious decision every single moment of every day, whether you're going to be vibrating at a high energy level or if you're going to be vibrating low. And it's a choice with every thought. It's a choice with every word that you say, and it's a choice with every interaction. So you can either make somebody's day with great energy when you approach them, or you can kind of ruin their day. So you have so much power in your hands. That's why, I feel it's important. I always say, when I teach this, I always say, be responsible for the energy that you share with the world, because it makes an impact.
Wow.
So
That's so
that's
cool.
why and even when I feel like absolute crap and I slept 3 hours, because that's what GYLS does to you, makes you sleep for 3 hours. And even when I feel like I'm gonna collapse on the way out, the moment that door closes behind me, there I am in full energetic glory, and I will not allow. And it boosts you on the inside too, because you kind of bring yourself to that level to be present with others, and then automatically you're at that level. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You definitely, like, I remember feeling it as well. Whenever we would interact, Moni, like, I could feel that energy. And a lot of people talk about it, but you embody it. And that's something that is completely different. But now, how
Thank
did
you.
you get to a point where that became who you are, right? Like, what's your story? What are the events that led you on this path, and to just be able to live this way and just choose, like you said, to choose to live that way? Kind of give us an idea of what that was like.
Sure. So I was actually born in communist Poland, and I was raised there till I was about 11. And then I came to the States to visit my grandmother, and I came with my whole family for family reunification program. So that was kind of interesting, because I came to the States without speaking a single word of English. So I was
Wow.
11, and I was thrown into a Catholic all nun school.
Oh, wow.
Um, with my the main person was, her name was Sister, the principal, her name was Sister Redempta. You can imagine, like, just from the word, what kind of a sister she was. So it was a tough transition. And I remember just, it was a very painful time. And I was always an empath. I was always the one who brought all the cats home, all the dogs, all the snails, everything I found ended up in my house. So my parents didn't love that too much, but I think just coming from, I think where some of us are, we're all born these beautiful empathic beings, right? And then the world kind of, it numbs us, and it
Yeah.
just hovers this beautiful energy, and it becomes dimmer. So we're just this bright light when we're born, and then we become dimmer and dimmer with life experiences, with conditioning, with how we're being parented. All of those things just dim our light. So I think our goal is to shine bright. And I didn't realize that. So that was a very difficult time. We stayed in the States for 2 years, and after that, so interestingly enough, when I arrived in the States, I was a happy little girl. And then within a few months, I turned into a blimp. I gained like 50 pounds in like 6 months. You could put the word MetLife across me and just make me float, because that's how
Wow.
huge I was. I just gained so much weight. And back then you didn't think much of it. You're thinking, okay, the food must be a little different, the environment, the stress, all of those things. But then I went back to Poland 2 years later because my parents just did not think that this was the right place for them. Interestingly enough, they do live here, both of them now.
Ah,
But back then we moved back to Poland, and it was if it was after, communism broke down in Poland, so we came back to our country. It was, after Solidarity, that whole movement. And when I got back to Poland, I slimmed down to a normal size again, like within a few months. And I didn't change the portions of anything I was eating. I was just eating the same way I would normally eat, eating the same amount and the same amount of times. But I just, for some reason, I just slimmed down. Didn't make too much, didn't make a note of it really. And then 5 years, 6 years later, I came to college here because I started working on film early on while I was in high school in Poland. So I was doing a lot of creative stuff, and I actually worked on Schindler's List in Poland. So
wow.
I worked as a Spielberg's translator, Steven Spielberg's translator from Polish to English. And they also made me into an extra. So I played a Jewish girl in the movie,
Oh,
and
how
I kind of
fun.
got, yeah, yes, I was hell. So, where I'm from. I'm from Krakow. Krakow is a very Jewish city. It was Jewish Christian for 800 years. So
Mm.
when you think about it, it's 40 generations or more of commingling. So people from my city often look Jewish. I look Jewish, apparently. I don't know what that means, but that's what Spielberg told me, so I believe him. So, so I worked on that, and I think I got the bug. And I got the bug. And even though my parents and my whole family swore that we're never coming to the States again, I was like, I think I really want to go to film school. So I came to school to the States. I first did business school for the parents, right? For the mom, because mom thinks that film is bogus and it's not a real career. So,
And don't
so
us parents do that to our kids
we
sometimes,
do we
it's
do
not
do
good.
that to our kids sometimes.
Not good.
I have to really hold myself not to, based on the experience of my mom. So I gave my mother the BS diploma, the Bachelor of Science. I gave her the diploma, and then I went to film school. I went to NYU Film School, and I worked in the film industry for 10 years. So
Wow.
I worked on feature films, and I worked as a first assistant director. That's the person that cracks the whip
Mm,
on the film, which is so absolutely opposite of who I am as a person. I'm a great
Mm.
organizer, but I cannot stand like bossing people around and being harsh. And in that industry, you kind of have to, in a way. It's hard to rule with a soft fist in this
mm,
industry. You kind of have to have an iron fist. So for 7 years I did that. High stress, high impact of stress on my body, on my psyche, because it's 16-hour days on film sets. It's
yeah.
6 days a week. It's eating processed cheese and crackers all day long, just grabbing it as you go from the craft table. It's constantly working, and it's project to project, so it's a very unstable job, but mostly, in New York, I was working primarily in New York on all the film. It's back to back, so you maybe
Mhm.
get a day off to see your family and say, hey, I'm still alive, and then you're back to the grind. So that after 10 years of that, my body was basically done, and I started developing depression, clinical depression.
Oh,
My body started breaking down, so I started having autoimmune diseases. All sorts of things started plaguing me, and depression for someone like me who is always like do 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 do, happy. Suddenly I had suicidal thoughts. I was sitting in my bathroom banging my head against the wall, thinking I just rather just kill myself because this is just too difficult. It was such a departure from who I was that I was like, okay, there has to be there's something wrong with me. I have to figure it out. The problem is that the doctors, and there's a place for everything, right? I
mhm.
always say there's a place for Western medicine in everything, but doctors just wanted to put me on antidepressants.
Yeah.
And that was the only fix that they knew how to access. They don't have the
Mhm.
tool. It's not their fault. They're not taught on anything holistic. They're not taught on anything preventive. Doctors just know how to either prescribe or use their scalpel or cut out.
Mhm.
Those are the things that they primarily focus on. Now we have more doctors, functional doctors, holistic doctors who really are encompassing the Western, the Eastern, and the holistic and making it one practice. Those are the doctors that I encourage everyone to see, because
Yes.
those are doctors that will absolutely get to the root cause of the issue and
Mhm.
not just put a band-aid on it. And that's what the
Totally
doctor,
agree. Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
that's what the doctors that I saw were trying to do. Slap a band-aid on that one, and let's hope that she leaves us alone. So that didn't work. That just made things worse. It's a temporary fix. And for anyone who's struggling with any sort of mental illness, absolutely, there's a place for medication, and I highly recommend making sure that you're well educated on what you're taking, and then wean yourself off when you're ready to. But it's only a temporary fix. It's never, ever a solution.
Mhm.
So it's just something to kind of numb the symptoms while you're getting to the root cause of the problem. So that didn't work. And I really, psychologists, reliving my childhood trauma, or standing in line for bread when I was 5, or my dad, being an alcoholic, didn't seem to help much either. So, the conventional visits to the psychiatrist or psychologist weren't really helpful much. I feel I was just like opening all wounds and, not
Mhm.
really getting better. Yes, maybe putting them to rest in some way. So there's also place for that. But I felt like there was more to this, and I needed to figure out how to get there. So I found this school in New York City called Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I'm now an ambassador. So if anyone wants to know more about the school, let me know, and I'll happily describe it to you. It's a wonderful base for when you want to get into the holistic um, realm, if you will, because there's so much to learn, right? So it's a 1-year program, and I did this just for me, for myself. And after that 1-year program, I had basics of nutrition, of wellness, of how food impacts everything in your life, of how it's really responsible for all the processes that are happening, your thoughts, the way that you feel, your mood, all of it is influenced by your food, of sleep, of energy as well. It was the beginning of my energetic work. All of those things I learned the basis for. And then once you get into that world, Susan, be careful.
I know. It's fascinating.
It's fascinating, but then you can't stop. It's addictive. So then I got another certification in positive psychology. I got a Reiki Master certification. I got a certification in hormonal health for women. I got a certification, so one after another in supplemental, supplements, and then blood work, and then reading blood work, and all this stuff. So now I have these layers and layers and layers of knowledge about wellness and how our bodies work. That's why I recently turned 50, and I feel fantabulous.
Yes.
Woo! Yeah, there'll be picture that I'll send that you could put over this, because I just turned 50, and orange is my favorite color, so I made it a big orange fest. It was a lot of
Oh,
fun.
nice.
And I have to be honest with you, I feel at 50 a lot better than I did throughout my 30s, because
Wow.
my 20s were my film world, my 30s was TV and being a mom.
Mm.
And the problem with having kids, and so what happened was, I before I started school, I kind of became a mother. Don't tell my child, he wasn't planned. uh so I was already engaged to my then future husband, and we were both in film, and it kind of happened. It just happened. And I think it was an absolute blessing and a gift from God, because it saved me from film. It saved me from this industry, because I would have kept going until it probably would have killed me.
Mm.
I'm just not cut out for that industry. Some people are better at it, maybe, but after 10 years of that, I think I would have been laid out flat. So my son Mateo was born, my sweetheart, and thank God. But I am not, and I will admit it, I am not a natural born mother. I'm just not. There are some women who are just meant for this, and some women who struggle with it. And I was the struggling mother. I was the one who had a very hard time transitioning from running 100 Teamsters on my film sets to taking care of a little blob who pooped and peed and burped and did nothing else. And I could not make that transition. And at the time, that was 19 years ago. At the time, I guess there was a little bit of a stigma around postpartum. There was a
Oh,
little bit
right.
of a stigma behind all that, like you it was I live in a place where everybody is super mom, and
Mm.
everybody is helicopter mom, and to everybody it's like, oh yes, it's so beautiful. I just walked one day and boop, there it was, and there it is, and then it's so beautiful and loving, and it's all roses and rainbows and butterflies. It's so not like that, and it wasn't so not like that for me. It was so 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 hard. I struggled with baby blues, postpartum, hard to tell. I wasn't medicated because I was already nervous about medicating myself in any way after that whole antidepressants debacle. So I was just trying to figure out ways to do this naturally, because it wasn't really easy. And then 2 years later, boo, another surprise. And I do understand how contraceptives work. I really do. But somehow, somehow, both my kids just forced themselves onto Earth. And thank God, because they're such amazing blessings to me and to the world, I think. But they both forced their way in. And honestly, honest to God, when I saw my second pregnancy test, I fell flat on the floor on my face because I fainted from the stress of
Oh,
that I'm
wow.
gonna have to do it again. It was the first 2 years were so hard for me that I still have PTSD from that, because it was just difficult for me.
And I'm hearing you saying this, I think what you're saying is so good that you're being this vulnerable to say, it wasn't for me, because not
Yeah.
everybody is choosing to be a parent, and then it happens. And then what do you do? And there is so much stigma out there of being super mom and all that stuff. And it's not everybody's thing.
No, it's
So
not.
it's going to be interesting to hear how you turn that around, because
Yes.
it's common,
Yeah, it's
but
very,
nobody
very
talks
common.
about it because,
Oh yeah, because it should come naturally to us, right? It's
Mhm.
it's normal to have children. No, I actually applaud and salute all the adults out there who are choosing not to have children. More power to you guys, because first of all, it is the hardest thing. I worked 16-hour days on film sets under the Brooklyn Bridge in -20 weather, and that wasn't as hard as being a parent. So being a parent is very difficult, and you really should feel at least somewhat ready for it. I know they say you're never ready for it, but at least somewhat. At least take some parenting classes. At
Mhm.
least, take a nephew for a few weeks who's 2 years old and see how that feels,
Yeah.
you know? Like, really, really know what you're getting yourself into, because I see so often people who really shouldn't have been parents. In my own family, I have plenty of people in my own circle of friends, plenty of people who just should have never been parents. And now who is paying for that? It's their children. It's not them. So,
Mhm.
in my personal case, my ex-husband is also an artist. It's very hard for him too. He never really wrapped his brain around fatherhood. It was very hard for him to make that transition. And I don't think he ever really truly did fully. So I had to do it by myself. I had to
Mhm.
figure it out. We're moms, right? And now the super moms come in, and you have to make everything perfect, and everything has to be about the kid. So that's what I did. For about 8 years of my life, I did everything for my children. I mean, granted, I was able for 6 years to stay home, and I'm very grateful to my ex-husband for the fact that we were able to do that, that I was able to do that. My parents helped a lot too financially, like every possible family member came together to make this happen so I could stay home with the kids for 6 years. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I am completely depleted. I have done nothing for
Mm.
myself in those 6 years.
We
I
often do
am,
that too. Super
yes.
moms.
Oh, what a sham that is. You
Yes.
know, and then, and the truth is, I know all these super moms. They live all around me. They're all like this to the world, but behind closed doors, they're self-medicating with either wine or prescription drugs. And
Mhm.
that's the truth of these super moms. So supermom is a scam. It doesn't really exist, because someone is paying for it somewhere. It's either the
Mm.
mom, it's the kids, it's someone is paying for it. So it's your health. Somewhere along the way, something is being compromised. So that was a tough realization when I realized, oh my goodness, I feel horrible. My body is not better than it was, before this whole experience. And I really needed to start taking care of myself. So that's when I went to the holistic school. So when my
Okay.
sons were 6 and 8 is when I went to IIN and I started the journey of healing myself. And truly it was a turning point, and I'm super grateful for that, because it did teach me the basics, then it taught me all the other things, and then I started kind of casually sharing it with people, with my friends who were struggling with the same thing, but it's all over wine at dinner, but nobody talks about it in public. And I was like, guys, this is what you could do for your supplements. This is what you could do for your wellness. This is how you should eat for energy. This is what you need to do. This is how you
Mhm.
can harness your energy. Um, that made me realize that I can do this for a living. So I started thinking of, okay, maybe I can do this. And you know how the universe works with mysterious ways. So
Mhm.
I said, universe, I think I can teach this to others and I can help them save themselves from themselves. And the opportunities just kind of came in. You know how they just kind of flow in when you need them to. So for the past 12 years, I've been working as a corporate wellness counselor, and I go into businesses like Sony, H&M, companies in New York City and in New Jersey, and I teach the employees about health, wellness, healthy eating, about preventing illness, about energy a little bit here and there, depending how progressive they are. So I teach all of that, and that has definitely opened my energetic field to a whole new level.
Mm.
But I feel after 12 years of doing that now, 10 to 12, I lose track of time because it's not linear anymore. At 50, it's just kind of like, woo, there I am. So, um, now I really would love to start working with teens, and that's why I met you, wonderful people. I'm
Mhm.
so excited to have met you, and I'm so excited to have been a part of this amazing experience because, to be honest with you, I have a great rapport with my 3 teenagers. I have two of my own children, Mateo and Maxime, who's 19 and 17 now. And I have a bonus son. I call him the bonus son. He's my foster son. His name is Isaiah. And he's been living with me on and off since the age of 10 and now permanently for the past 2 years. So first for a few years,
Nice.
then grandma somewhere in the South, and then back with us.
So you, the person who's not meant to be a mom, who got thrown into this, now just chooses to, well, let's just bring a third one in. So,
Once again, I didn't choose it.
oh,
It
okay.
it
But
was totally
the
brought into
universe
me.
gave it to you,
Yes,
gave
the
him to
universe,
you for a reason.
the
And so
universe.
now you've made this journey, but let's go back to where you were struggling with your kids and like, what do I do? How did you then take that, what you learned for yourself? How did that change you as a mother? Because you still had these two children that you,
Yes. So yes, and that was a very difficult time, because you know what? It turns out those little buggers don't come with a manual.
no, they
Who
don't.
knew?
And
Who
each one's
knew?
different.
And each one's different, so you have to write a whole new book on each one of them.
Yep.
So it was such a crazy realization, and I was trying to borrow ways of parenting from my colleagues and friends. I'm sorry to say, most of them, the kids run them.
Yep.
They're not parenting the kids. The kids
Mhm.
parenting them. And
Mhm.
I did not want to have anything to do with that, because that is not going to be my situation, where the child is telling me what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be eating, where we're going to be going, and how our household is going to be run. That
Yep.
is just ridiculous, and that needs to stop. That needs to stop
Mhm.
all across this country, because I
Mhm.
think that's going to be the end of us if we don't stop this soon. So I really had a hard time, and I just feel that, I'm not sure if that was, no, I don't think that was Tony who said that, Tony Robbins, but there's this one saying that says, show me who your mentors are and I'll tell you how successful you'll be in life. I
Mhm.
don't know who said it, sorry, but it's a very, very poignant message, and I took that to heart. So I very early on realized that I don't need to figure things out on my own. I can just learn from others who have been through something similar.
Mhm.
So I started seeking out parenting classes, and I just figured I just couldn't, they were like 4 and 6 at the time. So at the time, you start putting discipline into place, you start putting chores, ideas about, dudes, I'm not going to do your laundry for the rest of your life. You need to figure out how to operate this early on, because I'm not doing it for you. So very early, I was like, okay, I am not going to be their maid. I am not going to be the slave to this. I need to make these kids independent, and I need them to be my ally in this, and not this liability, this
Mm.
constant liability. So I went to a parenting class during like an event for women in my town, and it was TED Talks. And one of the TED Talk speakers talked about the style of parenting, with four different styles of parenting, and that was my saving grace. That
Mm.
has absolutely guided me ever since they were little. So these four styles of parenting are I think the quintessential guideline of how we should be parenting. Turns out that three of them are absolute garbage.
Mm.
Three of them, and I'm gonna put my glasses on, because guess what? That's
You're
one little
50.
attribute that I kind of need. So three of these styles are absolutely atrocious, and kids, when we parent in those three styles, kids after that kind of life as a child either end up as, addicted to some kind of a substance. They leave their parents, never to talk to them or see them again. Or they have mental issues and significant mental problems and psychological problems. So, wow, out of four styles, only one is good. That
Yeah.
was some serious information, right?
Yep. The odds are not
So,
good.
yes, the odds are not great. Means that maybe 1 in 4 kids has a good enough childhood to be a normal
Mhm.
citizen and a normal person.
And
So that was,
why don't, this is my one thing. Why
yeah,
don't parents get rid of their egos and go and learn how to do it well, instead of relying on, well, I already know how to do it because this is my parents did to me and it worked out well. I turned out okay. That kind of stuff, get rid of your
exactly.
ego, start to learn. this is the biggest job you'll ever have in your life. You're raising a human.
Exactly. You're raising the future generations of our of this world. How important is this job? It is the most important job, and you're going to do it with zero training.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I don't get it. I think parenting classes should be mandatory before you're allowed to get pregnant. If we can make that happen, that would be amazing, because both father and mother need to take at least 12-hour parenting class before they're able to become parents.
Well, it's funny because they do have birthing classes.
Yeah. Which basically you throw out the window the moment you get in there. Nothing like that.
Give me the drugs. I'm good.
Yeah. Or just what are you talking?
Yeah.
What are you talking about breathing? You can feel where my esophagus is, and you're telling me breathing. So yeah, so that, and they spend all this time and effort on taking these birthing classes, but then they have no idea. They read the books. Oh, what to expect when you're expecting. All these things.
I had that book.
Little tiny small moment in your life when you give the birth. What about the 18 plus years afterwards that you're actually supposed to make this thing work for the world, So that, to me, I think that's completely backwards. If you guys and us, all of us, can figure out a way to make this different and better in the world, I think that's where our opportunity lies, is to make that happen. So with no further ado, I'll tell you the 3 bad ones first.
Okay.
So the 3 bad ones, the first one is permissive. So basically do whatever you want, right? Low expectations, few rules, just being completely indulgent, allowing the kids to do whatever the heck they want. That's the parents that I'm surrounded with where I live, just FYI. Not all of them. I have a few friends who are on point. They're badasses. I hope I can. But for the most part, what do you want to do, sweetheart? And that's what happens. Whatever that sweetheart wants to do, that's what goes. That's permissive, not good. Drug abuse in the future, and just basically no
direction,
no structure, no direction.
Yeah.
Exactly. The second one is the uninvolved parents. We know those, right? Those who never meant to be parents, and now they're just escaping from being a parent at every chance they get. And that's uninvolved. Really, I don't care. So no expectations, few rules, absent, passive, just neglectful, not there, really, not worried about it too much. Then we have, I grew up with a little bit of that. A lot of us grew up with that. The authoritarian, right? My way or the highway, because I said so. I'm the parent. You're the stupid kid. You know nothing. You're not going to tell us what to do. So the exact opposite of permissive.
Yeah.
And that is awful as well. I remember the educator that taught me about these styles told me that those kids often end up, I hate to be morbid, like killing their own parents, at the end, or just cutting themselves from them completely because they want nothing to do with that kind of energy ever again.
It creates fear and anger. Yeah.
Fear, anger, and yes, there are high expectations, which is part of the successful parenting structure, but they're forceful, they're autocratic, they're rigid, and it's all about their way. And
you need to go to business school and not art, and not go into film. Right? I'm just going to say that's a little of that. Yes.
Exactly.
Sorry, you know,
exactly.
you go to business school.
That's what I told you, that I grew up with a little bit of that. Yes, that's very true. So, there's that one. And then there's the one that's the good one. So the other ones encompass, permissive. It's high responsiveness, but low expectations. The uninvolved is low expectations and low responsiveness. And then there's authoritarian, which is low responsiveness, high expectations. But the only one that works is the authoritative. The authoritative is, let's discuss this. So it's high expectations and high responsiveness. So high support, but high expectations. So clear standards, assertive, democratic, flexible, responsive, warm, loving. That's the one that works. When the kids really clearly know what is my what is my mom expecting of me? What is it that she needs from me to be happy with how I'm doing? You know, that structure, that saves my life, because I realize I don't have to be my kid's best friend. I don't.
Mhm.
I am now, by far, but not when they were little. You know, I would spend hours after my younger one bit my older one, and you know, I told him to apologize, and he would say no 75 times, and most parents like, okay, I'll give mommy a hug. No, you're gonna have to apologize to your brother, and until you do, you're gonna be locked in your room, and I'm going to sit by that room and wait for you to come out and apologize. And I'm going to sit there for 2 hours and cry, but I'm going to make you do that, you know, because it has to be high expectations, high support, but following through on your promises, following
And
through
responsible for your actions.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Responsible for your actions, held accountable for what you're doing.
Mhm.
And that's something that most parents don't do these days. That's why, you know, that's something that I feel Tony Robbins says so well when he says, good times create weak children,
Mhm.
and over loving, too much attention parents create very weak, unadjusted children who are going to have a very hard time in life.
Mhm.
So I took that and I honed in on it, and that's really truly how I parented my children. Another big issue with parenting is most of the time the person you married, who you were so in love with, does not have the same parenting style as you do.
Mhm.
And that's another huge issue with parenting, and especially with teenagers, because when they're little, you can still kind of, you know, you can kind of cheat the system a little bit. But when they're already like picking up on cues, and how can I play the one parent against the other parent, and
Mhm.
how I can, oh, she said no, but hey, if I do this, he'll say yes, or that makes it super hard too. So that should be included in our parenting classes, is what's your parenting style, and let's see if you actually are compatible in your parenting style, because
Mhm.
that was a big issue for me, where my ex-husband was not this completely different parenting style than mine. So we clashed a lot on that subject. So that's probably, I think that's probably, having children and having such completely different approaches to parenting broke up our marriage. That's
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
the gist of it. Because you know, love is not enough. It's just one little small part of a good marriage. And unless you're on the same page about a lot of different things, it's just not going to work. And
Yeah.
parenting seems to be like the biggest one.
Mhm.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I was able to incorporate that. And then slowly I was learning about energy. And when I started learning about energy, my mind just exploded, because I realized that, oh wow, when you know, I did Reiki mastery, and with what I was able just to do with Reiki, you know, how I was able to influence people's healing processes, how I was able to open their emotions and let things pour out, and then heal from that, from an emotional trauma, just with energy, was so mind-boggling that I was
Mhm.
like, wow, it seems like that's kind of at the core of everything. It's more important than anything else.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it truly is, because
Mhm.
energy and vibration and frequency is everything, you know? This earring right here, that's just vibrating energy. That's all it is. You know, it's vibrating energy. It's all really an illusion, which is hard for us to kind of wrap our brains around. But all of this, everything, my glasses, that's just particles of vibrating energy. How is it solid? Nobody understands, but it is. So, the interesting part about energy was, and what I've tried to encompass in my parenting as well. And by the way, I have an additional teenager living with me right now, so I have four. Uh,
Oh, wow.
so yes, every time there's trouble in their home, sometimes somehow they gravitate to this. Well, you know, I've always wanted to be a beacon of light, so that's, you know, I'm glad that that's what it's turning out to be. So when I started realizing that that's what energy was, I started going deeper. And then it turns out your thought is all energy, your words are energy, everything carries an energetic vibration and frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take every single thought that you have about yourself primarily, right? Because we're our own worst critic.
Yes, for
right?
sure.
The worst. We would not say it to the things that we say to ourselves, we would not say to your worst enemy, right?
Yes.
You
Mm-hmm.
would never say the insults that come spewing when you see yourself in the bathing suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not you, Rohan. We know that you're, you know, Rehan, we know that you're in the perfect body shape because of the amount of workout that you do. But for the rest of us, we kind
Plus,
of
he's
have,
only 22.
yeah, right. Oh yeah, my butt was perky at 22 as well, let me tell you.
Same.
So, right? Exactly. So then we start this self hatred talk, and we can take every thought that we have about ourselves, about others, about anyone, and we can either spin it up,
Mm-hmm.
make it a very positive thought, and turn it from whatever it started as. If it started badly, you can turn it to a positive, or we can take that same thought and bring it to a very dark place,
Mm-hmm.
very dark place. So every minute, every thought is an opportunity to either vibrate at a high level and high frequency of energy, or a low level and low frequency of energy. So
Mm.
all of that is our life. That's our entire life, is figuring out how to take that first thought, because the thought becomes your word, right? Or decision to say something. The word then translates into an action, and the action becomes your reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yes.
if you start at the place of the thought, which is the first one, which is the catalyst for everything else that happens in your reality, then if you master the thought, then you're able to master your reality. So then you're able to bend reality to your will.
Mm-hmm.
You can basically create the reality that you want to create through your thought. And it's not anything voodoo, it's not anything crazy. It's logic, right? It's logical. If the thought creates the words that I speak, the words that I speak create the situation that I have in my life, and then that creates my reality, then of course the progression there is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And when you master the thought, and the thought is always vibrating at a high level of frequency, high vibration, then your entire reality will become that. Your entire reality will just be beautiful, because it will
Mhm.
translate and it will go through that process. Make
I
sense?
love that.
I
Makes a
love
lot of
that too.
sense.
So again, I take it back to your children.
Yes,
So
please.
did you use this with your
Absolutely.
children? Because of course, yeah, as a family, there's energy in that family, and the energy can be really dark or the energy can be really light and beautiful. So how did you do that with your kids?
So don't think that we don't have moments where, this is always a work in progress, right? And
Mm-hmm.
especially early on, you can kind of give them snippets of it. But I would just give them examples, even right now, my son in college, this is a perfect example for this, even though doesn't go back to maybe when they were younger, but it's teenagerhood, right?
Yeah.
He's in college. He's a sophomore, and he had the privilege of having his own dorm room for the first 2 weeks of college, for the first 2 weeks of this semester. And
Mm-hmm.
he loved it, and he really loved it. And he was like, oh my God, mom, is so great. I don't have to have a roommate. Maybe there's a chance that it will happen, that I won't have a roommate. So he was all about that. And then he got word 2 weeks into it that he's getting a roommate, and he's getting a roommate that got into a fist fight with another college mate,
Nope.
and that, that there might be trouble in paradise. So he called, and he goes, totally spinning downwards with his thoughts, right? So I'm like, okay, what's going on? Mom, I really feel like it's unfair. I'm getting a roommate that I think might be violent. There's, I really wanted to be by myself. This is all unfair. Why is this happening? This
Oh, that
sucks.
unfair thing is so big. When you said that, I'm like, my son will say that a lot. It's just unfair.
And
Where does
there's
that
no
come
such
from?
thing. There's no such thing as fairness in this
No.
world. No such thing. You make your own reality. You create it. You create your own fairness. You create your own good luck. It's on you. It's on nobody else. It's just on you. So he says, okay, this is so unfair. So I say, okay, so and he's barging in here with his, with his whatever issues. And I just heard rumor around campus that he's not a good egg. I'm like, okay, Mateo, take that and now try to spin that and think about it. You don't know what he's coming to you with, where that came from. You don't really know the situation with his roommate. You don't really know what kind of person he is. You don't know what kind of darkness he's coming from. You have no idea what his childhood was like, what his experience as a college student is like. Think from a place of, how can I be the light right now? How can I be the light today for this person? What can I do for this person right now that will elevate his energy to a higher level rather than squishing it down? And, he said, okay, I'm embarrassed. You're right. I'm absolutely embarrassed because I know all this and somehow I still allowed it to fester and to create this spin out in my head. And I'm like, babe, I know you know this because, we as moms,
Yeah.
but they hear it. It registers somewhere. It registers. And they do learn from our talking, even if they don't actively hear it, they hear it.
And they watch you. They watch you
And they
do it.
watch you. You have to be the example. You
Yes.
absolutely have to be the example. So, and it's not always easy to be the example, let me tell you. Sometimes very difficult. And sometimes there are just energetic forces that you cannot break through. And you just will do everything you can to elevate that person's frequency, but it won't, because it's just not your job. It's not in your power always to do it. If they're very committed to keeping their frequency down and keeping their energetic vibration down, there's not much you can do. You can still be the light, but they can stay in the darkness all on their own. That's their choice. So I said that to him, and we had it was an hour conversation, and then the roommate came, and my son called me right afterwards and said, hey mom, so my roommate came in. And I said, okay, so how did it go? He goes, well, I said, hey roomie, welcome, this is your new home now, and if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And the
Beautiful.
roommate had tears in his eyes, dropped all his stuff to the floor and said, wow, I really didn't think that you were going to be nice to me. No one has been for a long time.
Oh, I've got goosebumps right now. Just
And
hearing
this just
that.
happened last
That
week.
poor kid. And we
Yes.
never know what people come from, what's happened to them. And
You
of
never
course he
know.
was angry and got in a fight. He's so beaten down. Nobody's being nice to him.
Nobody's being nice to him. And it was some kind of a crazy altercation where I don't know where it came from, but I'm sure it didn't come from this kid, because he's so sweet. So last night I was on a Zoom call with my son, and he walked in the room for the first time. I saw him for the first time, and Mateo says, hey, that's my mom. And he goes, hey mom, I just wanted to tell you, you have the nicest son in the world. Thank you.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful.
so I think that's a good example of how
Perfect
you
example.
incorporate these things, and there's so many of those examples where you walk down the street and I say, hey, smile at that person. You see that they're grumpy, they're dealing with something. Just lift them up with a little smile, with a hug, with something small.
A compliment. Yeah.
Compliment, something that will make them feel better, especially if they're not being open, if they're having a moment, if they're being mean or dark, or I remember that I started that earlier on when I had a spa and a wellness center in New York while my kids were younger. And I remember that was kind of a challenge that I did for myself. It was a challenge because my spa was on 23rd Street and Park Avenue South. So I had a lot of
Mm.
New York New Yorkers coming in, a lot of very spoiled, high demand New Yorkers coming in, and a lot of them coming in with a chip on their shoulder, with so much stress from their work, with so much pressure and pressure and pressure. Being a New Yorker is tough. Like, it's
Mm,
tough.
can't imagine.
Yeah, crazy, crazy world in New York. And I lived in New York for many years, so I understood it. But then when I started realizing, normally when somebody gets to that level, right? And just like in your ear, you kind of immediately, even if you're in happy mode, you're like, oh, and
Yep.
you go at each other, right?
Hmm.
So if a client came in and said, like, where's my therapist? I need a massage right away, or where's my Reiki person? And they would be very aggressive. In the past, I would meet them at that place and I would be like, well, calm yourself down. Everything's gonna be okay. And I would meet them at their energy. And that's
Hmm.
not the way to go. The way to go is to stay at your
Yeah.
top frequency and very slowly bring them up to your level.
Hmm.
So with kindness, with love, with embrace, with, gently, because especially with a New Yorker, very prickly, very prickly. So you have to very gently, very intelligently maneuver the approach to know what to say, how to say it, compliment them, say something positive about their appearance, say something positive about their smile, something about whatever it may be that will to take down one layer of the guard, then the next layer of the guard, then the next layer. And then when you peel the onion, there's this beautiful light inside, and all of
Yeah.
us, all are that light.
And what a great thing to do with your teenager, because,
Mm.
most teenagers, they come with so many emotions that they don't know how to handle, and they come in full speed sometimes. I mean, God, the things I said to my mother and the way I behaved, I'm just like, and you as teenagers, their brains aren't formed yet. They don't know what's going on. Their emotions are crazy. Their body's going all over the place. They don't understand what's happening. And so they don't know how to handle it. And so if
Yeah.
you come in at their level, it's going to, like you said, it's going to bring everybody down
Yeah.
instead of staying up here and
Yeah.
and giving them what they need, which is compassion, love, listening,
Yeah.
understanding, empathy. And if they can't get there yet, just stay in that space and eventually they will. But we tend to
100%.
just bam right back at them because of our egos or because you're out of control and I'm going to get you into control.
Yes.
But that doesn't work.
Or because I'm going to tell you how to solve it, and I'm going
Yeah.
to give you all the solutions, and I'm going to tell you what to do and how to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's never the answer. And I, coming from that kind of home, I have to catch myself sometimes
Mm-hmm.
from doing that. I
Oh,
have to
yeah. I mean,
sometimes,
we're not perfect, but
yeah,
if you're
I have to
aware,
sometimes like, well, tell me what I would do. Well, maybe not. I won't tell you. So I try to, I try to just give them their own voice and figure it out on their own. It's very important. It's really, really easy for us parents to just jump in and give them the fish, right? Instead of
mm-hmm.
teaching them how to fish.
Mm.
It's so easy for us to do that. And I think more parents do that in our reality these days than not, because we just
Mm-hmm.
want to give them everything. And that's another thing that I will never do. I will never, I think I pushed the limit a little too far, where I've I gave them and coddled them in a way until a little too late in their life. Then I had to kind of fix some of that
Yeah,
because I
same.
should have, yeah, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
should have made them responsible for a lot more things sooner than I did. Now I'm kind of retracing that and reverting it back because yes, now they do their own laundry, they clean their own rooms, I had a cleaning person that did everything for them. I did 90% of it, and the cleaning person would come every week or 2 weeks to clean the house. I'm like, nope, we're done with that. You guys are living in this house. You're gonna have to figure out how to clean your own apartments in the future. Thank you, cleaning lady, or I'm sorry, cleaning person. That's a derogatory term. I apologize. Cleaning person, for coming in and helping us. But from now on, you're going to do it on your own. And they cook for themselves, they work, they need to work. I feel they need to earn their own keep, and they also need to earn part of their tuition for their college. I think it's a mistake that parents just give them a free ride. So, I mean, that's just my experience, and that's my, that's how I understand it now, looking at them and seeing how my older one was pampered a little longer than my younger one.
Yep.
And how my older one, needs a little bit of a kick in the behind sometimes, whereas my younger one was already on that grind from early on, and he is better adjusted to even start college, better adjusted. Like, he's on point. He's like, yep, I got it, mom. I'm going to go do shopping. I'm going to cook for myself. Then I'm going to do my laundry. Then I'm cleaning my room. I am time blocking. I'm doing all the time blocking stuff. I got this.
Sounds like Rayhan.
Yeah. Yes, yes,
He
yes.
knows how to do that because he was on his own since he was 13.
Exactly.
Oh.
Rehan, that's what shaped you. And you are, I know that it must have been tough and sometimes, but you are very lucky that this experience happened, because you're leaps and bounds beyond 90% of people your age.
I appreciate that. Yeah, shout out to mom and dad. Love you guys. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. Great
Shout
parents.
out.
Moni, I have a two-part question actually for you.
Yes.
The first part of it is, how would you describe your relationship with your kids? Because from what it sounds like, you have a very beautiful relationship with them. And then the second part to it is, how did you build that relationship? Like, how did it come about? Because I feel like a lot of parents do struggle with creating that bond with their kids, especially when they're teenagers, because teenagers usually go through that phase of like figuring out who they are and the self-discovery, and they almost like don't want to spend time with family, and they want to be on their own. They want to live their own life. So yeah, if you could just kind of answer those two
Sure.
questions from your
I can try
experience.
to summarize it. So, I think, as I said, I took that parenting style and I really embraced it. So it's high expectations and high support. That's
Mm,
how I lead through parenting. That I tell them, I verbalize very specifically what I expect of them, but I also tell them I'm here for you 100% to get you there. So, this is how we're going to get there. We're going to get there together.
mm,
Obviously, communication, wow, conversation, endless conversation, right? So that's just, I try to do trips with my kids where I would take one at a time. So I have bonding time for
Love
them.
that.
So yeah, so I would do like a weekend getaway with just one of them. So he feels like it's only about him. And we are bonding on a whole new level when it's just us. Because, if it's all three of them, it's I might as well not even be there, because they speak a language I don't understand. Uh, they speak gibberish. I'm like, what? No, I have no idea. So, so I do that too. So those trips just with one. I often have like date nights with my kids. So I'll take them each one. Sometimes, of course, when they're together, where it's a weekend, we do a family event where the four of us, so my three boys and myself, we would go out to dinner together, right? And that's lovely because we have a dynamic of sharing. But again, there's a lot of like, I don't know what they're talking about. But most of the time when I do weekdays, or at least once a week, I take one of them. So just one of them, and then I alternate. So we can get deeper. We can go deeper on conversation. What's going on? What are your passions? What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? That's how I got my younger son on a great mentorship for a business program that he's now a part of, because he, during one of those dinners, told me, Mom, I've been researching this business idea, this agency thing, and I've been researching, and I think this guy is really good, and I really want you to. So he had all of the reasoning behind why he should do that mentorship. So we agreed that he would pay for half of it and I would pay for half of it. And that's what we're doing with most of the things. I have them have contribution to what they want. So they
Yeah,
don't get.
buy-in, because if they
Yeah,
don't have buy-in, they're gonna quit, or they're gonna
that's it.
just not
Skin in the
follow
game.
through.
Yes, some skin in the game. That's right, Rayhan.
Mhm.
So that's another little trick that I use with them is having those alone times that we can truly hone in, and they can't escape me because they're waiting for their meal, and it's not
Mhm.
like, Mom, I'm busy, I'm talking to a friend, or no, we're waiting for that pasta to come in. So we don't need to eat pasta very often. I'm not a big fan, but but we're waiting for that organic meal to come in. That lovely poke bowl. Oh, sorry, I just
Pokeball.
something. So yeah, so that's another thing that I do with them. Communication, very, very important. And not talking at them, talking to them, because and talking
Mm,
to them, because you can tell if you're paying attention, you can tell when a teenager stops listening, when they
Mhm.
just go
yeah.
"Whoop," and it's gone. And that's it. The reception is over. You're getting nothing in there. So at that point, it's like it's just you're yapping to yourself. So just give it up and just try to find an in where they're still interacting and it's a conversation. So
Mhm.
it's not you and they're sitting there and you're talking from up here. No, it has to be a conversation, a give and take. What do you think? A lot of open-ended questions. And I'm sure you guys heard this, but this helps me a lot with conversation with them is whenever you have a conversation with someone, try to use the word you as little as possible.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right?
Mhm.
So I teach them that, and they practice this with me, and I practice it with them. So, I feel like this is not fair. I feel like you're being harsh. Like those are the kind of phrases that we try to use rather than you.
Yeah.
So, does that answer your question, Rehan?
Oh,
Is there?
definitely. Yeah, no, because like we've talked about it a lot, and even our interactions with like other guests or even parents, and Susan's experience as a parent, the way I imagine myself as a parent one day. It always boils down, it always boils down to, thank you. It always boils down to communication, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you said it. You said it right there, having that communication, and that means speaking with them, having a conversation with them, right? Not just telling them what to do, not speaking at them, but also listening, right?
Mhm.
Listening to what they're saying and truly listening, right?
yes,
Hearing them, making them feel
absolutely.
heard. I think it's something that everyone needs, especially teenagers, especially teenagers. So I absolutely love that. And I know I'm stealing the show with my questions now. I'm sorry,
No,
Susan,
you're
but
not at
No.
I
all.
have, I have one more, and I'm kind of gonna, throw this one at you, Moni, but I would
Mhm.
love for you to share three pieces of advice that you would share to the parents listening. What should they be thinking about? What are some tips maybe that you have for them? I know you've shared a lot of stuff throughout the
Yeah.
episode.
Quick ones, huh?
Quick
So
ones, yeah.
quick ones. Okay, so first of all, I would say educate yourself on how to be a good parent. Put down your ego, like Susan said, and go out and educate yourself. Read some books, take some classes, truly prepare yourself for this journey because it's the most beautiful and the most difficult journey you'll ever take.
Mhm.
So make sure you have the tools when you're actually going through it. I think that's number one. Number two, as your kids become teenagers, try treating them like you would treat yourself and a best friend. So have expectations, have support, but also um, be kind, be really kind to them. The authoritarian parent structure really doesn't work. So they really need love and kindness and understanding more than anything. And like you said, active listening. Active
Mhm.
listening is key, absolutely key to having an open communication, an open discussion, and to get to some kind of realizations. Because if you can't listen, then you can't build uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
on on the things that you're saying to one another. So having that ability to be a really good listener would be the third one.
Mm.
I think
Nice.
Love
so.
it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yay! This is
Yeah.
fun, you
Wow, you
guys.
brought
This
such
is all day
value
long.
today. So many,
Yeah.
so many great things. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Moni. Thank you so much for sharing and also being as vulnerable as you were, just sharing everything. It was such a blessing to have you on. Really, we really enjoyed it.
Thank you guys. And as I said, I have a ambition to have a podcast one day as well. And that's why I choose to be real, because as I told you, the motto of my podcast is going to be, you can either be perfect and be adored, or you can be real and be loved.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
love that.
So how could people want to learn more about you, maybe your energy work, your wellness,
Sure.
anything? Where can they find you?
So you know what? I'm obviously working on it, because I'm transitioning from working for corporate to working with individuals and with teenagers. So it kind of is a transition. But I do have a website that hasn't been updated in like 7 years, but it's there and my information is there. So that's at least that's a contact that people can have. So it's
What is the website?
Omnia, 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 which means everything in Latin in a female form. So Omni is male everything. Omnia is female everything. Everything. OmniaHealthAndWellness.com.
All right, we'll link it as well.
OmniaHealthAndWellness.com. Oh, thank you.
Beautiful. Of
So
course, yeah.
that's my website. That's my contact information is there. So if somebody needs a one-on-one counseling for wellness, for health, for energy work, for life coaching, obviously everything that I do now encompasses all these modalities. So I am a life coach in a way as well. So any kind of issues that anyone has, I'm always happy to help, because my goal on this earth is to be of service at the highest level. That's what I want to be.
Love that. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Moni. Thank you.
You're so welcome, you guys. I wish I could
We'll
hug
put
you.
everything.
Mhm.
Virtual hug.
Virtual hugs. Woo!
And sending lots of love to everyone who watched and
Lots of
listened to
love.
this episode.
Lots of love.
But yeah, thank you so much, Moni. We really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom, your experiences, being vulnerable. And yeah, maybe we'll have you on another time to speak even more, because this is so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. So much
But
pleasure. Oh, I loved it. Love sharing this. This is so beautiful when we can share this with the world. And thank you guys so much for creating this podcast to begin with, because so many parents are so lost and confused. So thank you guys. Such a beautiful work that you're doing.
Thank you.
you.
All right,
Alrighty.
everyone. If you like this resonated with you, please share it with other parents, other friends. Always like, subscribe, comment, everything. But we're here,
All
and
the fun
next week we'll
stuff.
be bringing another amazing guest from our experiences at the Global Youth Leadership Summit. And each one of you have just bring something amazing to the table and so much value for everybody listening. So thank you for being here, Moni. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys. Bye.